We heard reflections by President Ramaphosa at the beginning of Bulelani's report on his White House meeting, the working visit to Washington last week. We'll go back to Parliament now, bring in SABC News reporter Abra Barbier, who's sitting with a man who was part of the delegation, the Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen. Abra, take it away.
Timbekile, good evening. Thank you very much. I am sitting with John Steenhuisen, DA leader, as well as Minister of Agriculture in President Ramaphosa's cabinet. And yes, we are going to be speaking to him to reflect on last week's meeting that is still on everybody's lips. John, thank you so much for speaking with me this evening. My first few questions are going to be to you as Agricultural Minister.
Sure.
So we just heard the President saying in the House now, there have been lots of questions to all of you. Have any deals been made? Has anything been signed? And the President just said that the objectives of the goal, the objectives of the visit were achieved, and those are largely around investment and trade. Engagement on these issues have begun. Are you able to tell me if any hard and fast agreements or deals have been signed?
Well, I don't think any hard and fast agreements have been signed, but certainly having gone to Washington with a package of deals that we would be prepared to put on the table demonstrated to the US that we are a serious country and that we're serious about trade and that we're serious about our relationship with the United States of America. Obviously, the US Trade Representative and the administration have looked at those deals. They've obviously given us advice where they think we could sharpen our pencil. We obviously need to look at some of the implications for us here in South Africa. And I think that later on in the month, you'd probably see us moving towards more formal trade talks. But certainly, the door now in Washington is wide open for us to go in and do a deal. And I think that we have hopefully been able to avoid a July 30% tariff increase because we also have things that the US needs, and we mustn't discount that. Strategic minerals. We've got excellent quality agricultural goods that are counter-seasonal to the US. So things like citrus is required by US supermarkets. And I think we've got a good offer to sell. And obviously the Americans are looking to see how they can correct some of the trade imbalances that they see. And I think that we can find a deal.
Mr. Steenhuisen, what specific message did you as Agricultural Minister have to the U.S. delegation? And I remember you and I was in one of your press conferences not long ago when we spoke about citrus dull and the impact that the non-renewal of AGOA would have on so many farmers in South Africa. Did you raise this issue?
Yes, of course we raised these issues. And, it's a point I've been making from the beginning. Although the US market is only around 4 to 7% of our total agricultural exports, it's very heavily concentrated in citrus, table grapes, nuts, and wine. And so we're very heavily exposed. And places like Citrus Dole export almost exclusively to the United States of America. And I think that what we've been able to do is to explain the importance of agriculture to our economy and job creation in the country, but also the great quality and great price that the American market gets. American consumers require access to good quality, well-priced fruits and other agricultural products. And I think South Africa is perfectly positioned to be able to meet that gap in the US market. And even if we are not able to re-secure AGOA, a 30% tariff will knock us out of the game. We can live with a slightly smaller tariff, which allows us to then compete with other countries who have a similar tariff barrier into the US.
So obviously what we saw versus what you experienced behind closed doors, there was we were exposed to the theatrics and the drama of the meeting. What is your general assessment of the meeting? How did it go? And do you see trade moving in a positive direction between the two countries?
Look, let me be very clear. I don't think any of us going into the meeting, from President Ramaphosa all the way down to me, knew or thought it was going to be an easy meeting. This was not going to be a cakewalk ever. And that is why it was a high-stakes game. I do, however, think that we leave Washington in better condition than we did going in. And so I think we have achieved some of those things. President Trump indicating that he would attend G20, an opportunity now for them to see how serious we are about our trade relationship. We've come to Washington with a serious deal, with some offers, and that we've now committed to keeping these talks going until we find a solution for the trade impasses. And so I definitely think that we've achieved certainly large parts of what we wanted to achieve going in.
Okay, shifting now to John Steenhuisen, leader of the DA. everybody acknowledged the issue of crime. You acknowledge the issue of crime on farms that not only affects farm owners but farm workers, black farm workers as well. Do you believe that President Trump truly believes that there is a white genocide happening in this country?
I think that certainly that was a belief that he held. I think that that belief has been somewhat thwarted by the interventions that we were able to make in Washington and a focus on the issues. It's not only white farmers, it's white, black, coloured and Indian farmers whose names are on the memorial at the Nampo grounds as farmers who've suffered brutal farm attacks. We've got a problem with rural crime, and we were very clear to acknowledge that. It's not normal, and we should never normalise 62 people being murdered every day in a country that's not at war. And we've got to do something about it now. And I think that what the spotlight has done on rural safety, the brutality of farm murders, and crime in general has given us now, I think, a new impetus to actually get on top of these things and deal with them, because we have the world's attention on that now. And I think it's an opportunity for South Africa to demonstrate now how we actually resolve the issue.
Just quickly, you mentioned the daily crime rate. Did you feel like you were thrown under the bus by Mr. Rupert? That's what some people are saying.
No, I think it's a very unfair characterization. Look, I think Johan was trying to demonstrate that, again, it's not white people who are bearing the burden of murder in South Africa, that if you look at the crime statistics, it's largely mainly black and coloured young men who bear the burden of crime, and the latest release of crime statistics are there. And I think the point he was trying to make is that it's not just white people. He did send me a text afterwards, where he said he clarified what he was trying to say, but I certainly didn't feel thrown under the bus. I think that we were very lucky to have Johan Rupert with us. He obviously got very good connections and contacts in the White House. And certainly over the lunch and during the meeting, it was absolutely net positive having him there.
Just briefly, we don't have much time. On the DA's stance on the Expropriation Act and the court case, that still stands. How do you reconcile the conversations that you had in the US with your stance on that?
Well, what we were able to say is that this thing is going through a process like any other constitutional democracy, where people are unhappy with a law that has been passed, and we are unhappy with the expropriation bill or act in its current form. You're able to review it through a judicial process. And I think that's a sign of a strong democracy. I don't think it should be something we shy away from, that we will have a court interpretation, and I think that is the best outcome for that particular situation.
John Steenhuisen, thank you so much for your time. That was DA leader and Minister of Agriculture John Steenhuisen, just giving us a little bit of insight as to what exactly happened at the Oval Office last week. Tembekile?
Abra Barbier, thank you very much for that conversation. Abra reporting from Parliament this evening.